All right, so you guys might be thinking, what the heck is induction and how does that differ from an electric stovetop or even just like a fire propane stovetop? So of course, propane, fire, heats up the pan. Electric, same thing, heats up basically the pan through just heat alone. But what's different with induction than just like a regular electric pan is it uses basically a magnetic force to basically heat up the pan through the use of magnets. So it's actually, if you turn on the stovetop, it's actually not going to be hot to the touch with your hand. It's only going to heat up if you put a magnetic material on top of the induction. I'm going to do a little demonstration really quick. So basically, you need a induction compatible pan, which is usually lined with, well, it's always lined with a magnetic material on the bottom, and usually it'll say induction pan. So here I have a magnetic base. This pan is specifically induction, so that has to be used with this type of induction cooktop. Put that on here, and in order to turn on the induction, you need to turn on your inverter because it runs off 120 volt electricity. We'll get into the electricity needs a little bit later in the video. Turn on the inverter, this inverter switch. Okay, now I'm going to turn on the stovetop, and I'm going to actually click which burner that I'm going to be heating up. I'll click that, and then I'll put the plus button. Now it's on the temperature 5. What's cool about this stovetop is that you can actually put a timer. So you click the timer button. Let's do some plus, minus, plus, plus, plus. You can actually do it from anywhere from 1 to 99 minutes. I like using that feature kind of just as a fail-safe in case you forget. I'm not cooking anything right now, but I can feel it's getting hot. Now what's good about induction is it actually heats up very quickly, and I actually find that you don't actually need to put it on a high power to get a lot of heat. What's cool about this Empava stovetop is that there is a lock feature on it. So for those of you with kids out there, this is kind of a safety feature so that they don't touch a bunch of buttons or, you know, kind of fiddle around with things they shouldn't be fiddling with. One thing I love about the induction stovetop is that it's always there in sight, and it doesn't really look like a stove. It kind of just looks sleek. It's got a nice design, and it's there. You're looking at your stove, and you're just like, wow, that looks clean. Versus when you see like a regular gas stove, you see the burners, you see it. It looks like you're in your kitchen kind of. But this design, it just looks so sleek that it's, you know, you're totally fine just leaving it there kind of as a staple of your kitchen. Let's get into some of the electrical requirements for actually operating this thing. It uses a decent amount of electricity, but if you have the right battery bank and the right inverter, you are golden. For example, I have a 400 amp hour or 4800 watt hour battery system. For this stovetop, max power possible, you run 1800 watts split between both burners. Kind of simple math, 1800 times 2 is 36. So basically at full blast, it would consume 75% of my battery bank if this was running at 100% full blast power. You never need to run this at full blast power really, let alone for 2 hours. Usually I'm running these at like 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, you're golden. So yeah, this thing gets very hot, very efficient for what it is. And the best thing about it is that there's no propane. Another thing to consider is that you always want to edge on the side of caution for being able to power a certain product in your van. But let's say you have an 1800 watt max that this thing could use. You don't want breakers tripping, you don't want anything. You want everything to be oversized for that capability. So if you have a 2000 watt inverter, I would say that's not going to be the move, because it's going to overwork that inverter if you ever get to like that point where you're using that 1800 watts. My inverter is a 3000 watt inverter, so oversized, and it's on a basically at max capacity it's going to be 15 amps. So I have a 20 amp breaker. And then as far as your battery system, all batteries have something called a BMS, which is basically a limiter for how much your battery can discharge at any one point in time. So for example, if you had one battery that was 100 amp BMS And this at max power had to pull 150 amps. It couldn't do it at once, so you actually need to have multiple batteries. I'm thinking about doing an electrical video, kind of breaking down that information. Drop down in the comments if you'd like to see a breakdown of some electrical stuff. All right, so now I'm going to be sharing some things I love and things I don't love about the Empava 2-burner induction stovetop. So one thing that really sticks out is that it's made of this like glass that, you know, you can kind of see like when there's like dust and stuff, so you're going to want to like kind of wipe this to keep it very sleek and nice and shiny. Also, this hasn't happened with me, but I've heard stories where things fall on it and then it kind of like shatters. So that's one thing. Another thing to consider is that you're probably going to have to buy a pot or two or a pan. So you're going to have to incur probably an expense with that. The things I love, and I love that it's always there ready to cook if you need it. There's nothing to set up, there's nothing to get out, because when you have to like take out a stove, put it on your counter, you know, when it, you know, if you have a little bit of friction when you want to, every time you want to cook a meal, you're not going to want to cook ever. So the beauty of this is that it's always out and ready to cook. You just put the pan on and you start cooking. So that's a beautiful thing. Installation was very simple with this. You literally just cut a square and I just plopped it in, and very simple. Another thing to consider is that there's basically a fan under the induction that it kind of creates heat, and it does a good job of fanning, but it actually needs a place for that heat to vent out. So I have a vent on top of my fridge and below my induction. It's for heat to basically escape. And yeah, so that's something to consider when putting it into one of your kitchen cabinets. I cannot stress enough, the biggest pro is that I don't have gas inside this van at all. It's all electric. So that's like the big concern with cooking for me, is that I do not want any risk of that carbon monoxide, you know, spilling into this van. So if you want to support the channel, help my dreams come true, click on the link in the pinned comment for, oh, there's a bee, there's a bee, there's a bee, oh, there's a bee, there's a bee. Do you see it? Okay, it's fine. Link in the pinned comment. That bee is getting close. I love bees, just not near me. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching.